likely things you think can be a challenge to electronic health record in Nigeria? From your own perspective and your knowledge and experience, what are those things that you can think it will be a challenge for the nurses to implement or to accept electronic health record system?
Thank you very much. I stand on the existing protocols. In my opinion, the challenges that probably may hinder nurses from the implementation of electronic health record are not far from what Prof has actually highlighted in the course of his presentation. One of the things that I see as a challenge is lack of knowledge in information technology, and at the same time the use of computer. Then the other challenge that, in my opinion, that will also hinder the implementation of electronic health record is lack of synergy between the professions. That is, between the nurses and the other healthcare providers. As rightly presented here by my comrade here, there is conflict of interest on who does what. Who will coordinate the electronic health record? What am I take as a nurse in the let me use the word generating health information health records. That is, at the stakeholders meeting, definitely it is supposed to be a collaborative collaboration between the professions, that is between the nurses and other professions. But most of the times, when such committees will be constituted, for instance, probably there may not be a nurse in that committee. That is lack of involvement of the men or the male stakeholders will also be a challenge. Like I have said, I generate nursing care information as regards to nursing care of patient. Then I should be able to have a say when it comes to implementation of health information record. Okay, what are those nursing cares that you render to patient? How can we factor in the nursing care you render to patient into electronic health record? All this information, can be best given by a nurse. But most of the times, you discover that non-engagement of the stakeholders that are the real implementers of the electronic health will not be at the policy making tables. So how do we expect an effective implementation of this system? So one of the challenges is not lack of involvement of the main stakeholders in the implementation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that wonderful. I remember during the time we were taught form design. One of the rules is if you are designing a form for any department, we call that department the end user. The end user must be called to come and vet the form you are designing, because they are the one that will use the form. And the form must be user friendly, and it can only be user friendly if the user will tell you, this is where I want this one to be, this is where I want this one to be. The same thing applicable to electronic health record. which is the reason why it said one of the issue or one of the problems that will affect the implementation is not involving the stakeholder that are supposed to be involved. Thank you so much. But at this time, we'll go back to the consulting room before we move to the lab. Sir, please, we still want to ask the same question. The likely problem that can affect this implementation or the acceptability of electronic health record in the aspect of the physician, because I remember in University of London Teaching Hospital there, when they started the partial electronic documentation, the first 6 months, none of the consultants used the system. Not until when the CMD gave only, I think after like a year, the only consultant that used the laptop was given an award with money and some computer before they started using it. And I keep wondering what could have been the reason why almost all of them don't want to accept the electronic health record, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much once again. Impediments to the use of electronic health records, like most of people have said, the first and foremost is when people do not even understand what it means. So, like he said, you have to engage the stakeholders at the beginning. This is what we want to do, this is where we want to go, and they can ask questions. And to be very frank with you, most physicians will assume it is extra work. If you go to a clinic where somebody sees 50 patients with hypertension between 8 a.m. and 4:30, and you ask him to punch a computer again, say that is extra work for him. I hope you get it. So that is why sometimes they do not want to use it. But the most important, like I said at the beginning, is lack of engagement at the beginning. Secondly, like we said, probably the workload. And thirdly, some people will feel that, well, actually they are not actually good in using computers in real sense. They just use computers because they have to use them. I knew when I was working as assistant dean, there was one head of department. For the 2 years I was assistant dean, he never replied an email. For 2 years, never replied an email. And there are other consultants who are older than him, and within 4, 5, 6 hours they will reply your email. But he never replied. So sometimes it's because they don't know, or they feel it's extra work, or they don't know how to even use the computer. Then the next thing, like we said, the end user, like we said, like I said, most of this electronic medical record software is is a computer scientist or data scientist that will design it. Then will bring it to the nurse. Then the nurse says, this is not what we want. I hope you understand. So at the stage of design, you need to even engage people to know how they use it. And I've had some few experiences, like I mentioned. That private hospital, I was shocked. You can't even write anything. Everything has to be done either on your phone or on the computer. I'm surprised the FMC Kefi in Nasarawa State. I'm surprised. Everybody uses it. But still, like he said, they also do the hybrid. At that first engagement there, you have to open that folder and everything, and you keep it. In case you come someday, the network is bad, and what have you, they can pick that one. FMC Kefi. So I think, like we said, is end user engagement, education that will reduce this lack of use of electronic medical records. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Back to the lab. We all know what is happening in the healthcare sector now is beyond electronic documentation. We have a lot of things like telemedicine, using our system to do some tests now. We don't need to do it manually. My question is, how do the scientists see this? Did they accept it with total acts? Looking at it professionally, is he having, what are the reasons why, if it's not accepted, what are the reasons why they are having some little challenges, why is it not totally accepted? If not, and if it's accepted, what are the positive change that it has introduced to the practice? Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Still standing on the established protocols. Well, I think I can boldly say, as far as ABUTH Teaching Hospital is concerned, my department is arguably, if not the only one, the first to be completely automated. And from that backdrop, I can tell you physically that one thing is germane. An average Nigerian is always afraid of change. That's my personal experience from everywhere I've been to, and I think I've been privileged to travel everywhere in Nigeria except Kebbi State. So I can say that an average Nigerian is always afraid of change. And that is the reason why most people just feel you trying to bring a new system, it's like you are trying to push them out of the system. However, ABUTH experience too has shown me that if you involve the end users, then you go places faster than what you expect. And the same ABUTH has shown me that because from what I mentioned earlier on, the involvement of each of the heads of departments of those laboratories involved in the LIS as at that time, the feasibility studies, they had to be visited. In fact, there was a department at the head of the department actually chased us away. But because I was involved, I insisted in that study that they should include the department in the implementation process. And they were just giving only 2 points. Now, during implementation, the same head of the department accused the team of not giving his department enough points. Which means it was that point of implementation he understood the benefit of that system to his department. But just imagine if I, as a medical scientist, was not part of that process, completely that department would be off. So the complaint of not getting enough will not even be there. That is the emphasis on end user involvement. Now, bringing it forward, and I want to leave it up with what the informatics here said. The software, there are software today that can accommodate the entire hospital process without using a pen and paper. From the point of entry of the patient to the point you are discharging that patient, everything will be electronic. We have one from pathology overseas. It has everything, inclusive of administrative and account system. Complete. Now, if you study that hub, you now understand that every professional will not just have to have qualified to practice whatever he or she is trained to do, but that person must be well grounded in computer usage. Yet, we cannot do away with the computer scientist. And that is the bane in Nigeria. Because in Nigeria, most times, we don't know how to implement rules. Permit me to use it that way because we tend to see everybody as an enemy. Instead of us to maximize our differences in strengthening the system, we use our differences to destroy the system. And that is why we are having difficulty in actually adopting most of this new trend. Because I just feel you bringing this will make me less important, and you are trying to lord somebody over me. So the next thing is for me to stop it. And I can bet you, no matter the system you are bringing, anyone that is well grounded in his profession can actually stop it. Whether it's the electronic health record or laboratory information system, on my desk I can stop everything to not work. Which means I have to be convinced, and that is where this is very important to the student population here. We should understand that we cannot survive all alone. God created us to be interdependent, interrelated, which means there are things that I can do that you cannot do. There are things that you can do that I cannot do. However, if we come together, you put in yours, I put in mine, you put in yours, and at the end of the day, we'll have better results than us working independently. And that should be our guiding principle, because we cannot run away from accepting this reality of this current century. Any attempt for us to run away from it, then we are doomed. That is why we must work towards accepting these things to work for us. Like I said, I've thrown a challenge to you in your department particularly, and I can bet you, if you go into the system, you understand that the only way we can better the lot of our patients and clients is for us to accept these things. It's non-negotiable. By my own personal principle, it's non-negotiable. We just have to accept it. However, we work on it for it to be advantageous to us instead of being disadvantageous. And on that note, I want to appeal to everyone seated here that let us see how we can maximize team work, because we do better when we work together in harmony than for us to work against each other's interests. I'm pretty sure the system is not out to play down any of the profession. Rather, the system wants the best from each of the profession for the client who is said to be the most important person to get the best from the system. I think if we can work that way, we will do better and we will move faster.
Thank you so much. Before we run on, I think during the course of lecture with HND1 or ND1, I said in the 21st century or the coming century, it will get to a time whereby we'll go to the hospital with bike. Say, take me to the hospital, wait for me, you take me back. Because there was a research trying to look at how the satisfy the patient satisfaction in the hospital. The first complaint of the patient is the patient waiting time in an hospital. The first thing that always worry patient most is the time they spend in the hospital. And if that needs to be taken care of, the best way we can do that is electronic record. The time you spend in retrieving a folder, if you go with your card like ATM, you just give them, they slot it in, they will just tell you go. That means you can ask Okada man, wait for me. I will just collect my truck and come out. That's how it is. And that's where we are going, whether we like it or not. So based on the conclusion and the recommendation and advice given, that's why I want to ask this question. That we can see that it is very important to involve all the stakeholders if truly we want to fit into the 21st century of healthcare delivery system. Now my question is, how do we think people in charge of decision making will understand that everybody needs to be carried along when implementing electronic health records, or when we are trying to work with 21st century healthcare system? That's the question. Because I observe, I think from my own personal experience, all the software I've seen in most of the private hospitals, immediately I have access to it, I will start seeing some flaw because they are just computer scientists. They don't know what hospital system is all about. I was privileged to work with the school coordinator when we were in Shika. There was a vendor that came to hospital trying to sell a database. Then the then CMP, Professor Khalid, called on Madam Kasi, the school coordinator, and he took me along. After their presentation, we asked just 3 questions. CMP said, these people are not ready. Go and meet health information management and come back after when you've seen them, because they don't even take care of the confidentiality of the patient. Because they are just computer scientists. So, sir, please, how do you think the people in charge of decision making to understand the fact that every stakeholder have to be carried along? Sir?
Now, you see, decision making, like we said, for as long as you have the right person to take decisions, then you don't have issues. If you have a person who has gone through the ranks to reach that position where that decision will be taken, you don't have an issue. But as you are aware, some of the appointments in Nigeria are politically based, what do you call it, sectionally motivated and all that. The best candidate we will put aside and someone else will be there. So that is the major issue. So, but apart from that, usually if the leader who is supposed to take decision is aware that, look, the health sector is a multi-professional sector, and if they bring something that they want to implement in the pharmacy, even though I'm a doctor, I have to call the head of pharmacy. So this gives back to end user engagement, so to say, isn't it? So for every new or improving system that wants to be introduced in the system, then the leader who is responsible for making that decision should be able to consult the other people in their respective field so that they can give proper advice rather than listening to people who are just contractors or what have you. So that is it.
Thank you so much, sir. In conclusion, finally, as a student under training in the University of Ilorin Teaching Hospital, I observe that anytime the chief medical director is going for budget defense, then you always go with the HOD, Health Information Management Department, in order to buttress some of their budgets and some other things. And I remember then that almost all the time if they go and come back, almost all their requests are granted. And now in this 21st century that we are talking about electronic, to me I was looking at it that this is the best time to even achieve more than that time. But to my own observation on what I'm seeing, is now that we are not even getting like them. So please, could it be that we are not using the tools as how it's supposed to be, or is it that the tools or the system we are practicing now that is not good to get it? But from my own perception and the little knowledge I have about the EL, and I believe is now that we're supposed to be getting more than them.
If the person in charge at a certain moment has the knowledge and understands the capability that the HIM can give a leverage to the hospital to improve, then that will make it easy for him to fall back on his HIM. But if you are not lucky to have the person in charge whose whole thinking is towards something else, and he does not even give a listening ear to the people in health information management. You have to have a listening ear first, and then you have to convince, and then when it meets with someone who already has the knowledge or has had that experience, then definitely it will work. Otherwise, then we have to build the confidence gradually by trying to mix up, by trying to write up, by trying to show him that this is what happened in this area, this is what happened in this area, and this is what we have. If you can partner with us, then we will all benefit. It is not going to be for the department alone. You understand? Like people are saying, Nigeria, there's a lot of interest. Okay, even if I carry these people along and we go there, what is it? Is it not just to buy a computer for them? You understand? But it's beyond that. Yes, you need to buy computers, you need to install some software, you need to do this. But ultimately, in your next budget defense, you will get a better bargain. In your next trip to the committee of CMD's meeting, you have a better bargain because you have records that are verifiable. When they start talking, you say, no, just hold on for me. Just open your laptop and say, this is it. This is what we have inside there. You can verify it if you want. So you have to get to educate the person at the center that these are the advantages of partnering with us. It is not only limited to HIM, but to all the whole hospital. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Back to the health information management, sir. In conclusion, sir, the same question. I got to know that the bed capacity of AKTH is around 5 plus, sir. I stand to be correct. And that of Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital is 800 plus, sir. And getting to know again that the staff strength of AKTH is more than the staff strength of Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. I believe you have been working with data in order to get those information, to get something done. Sir, how do you do it that the management listing or make use of the data generated from your department in order to get some things done? You know, we have a lot of data like average length of stay, throughput, which an ordinary person, even though some clinical personnel may not understand the interpretation. And we always make this thing in, this is throughput for the year, this is the average length of stay of the year, this is the turnover interval for the year. How do we interpret those information for an average person or an administrator to understand? Because I believe there is nobody that will understand the turnover interval, the throughput, and average length of stay that will not look at the workload. As far as we have the ratio of patients to doctors, the ratio of patients to health information that we supposed to have, that will not follow those. How do you get it done? Because from my own experience now, from observation, it's like AKTH has advantage in that aspect and ABUTH.
My dear ABUTH. What do I say my dear ABUTH? Actually born in the late 60s, but still I was born in Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. I graduated in 1992 and I graduated from Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital. So that's why I say it's my dear. In fact, I worked from 1994 to 1996 in ABUTH Teaching Hospital before I moved to Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital in search of scholarship, not because actually I don't like ABUTH Teaching Hospital. So, you know, from what I've said actually, Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital happened to be a new brand teaching hospital compared to Ahmadu Bello University Teaching Hospital, which is even good for historical purposes for the students to know that their school was not even based in Zaria before. When I did my higher national diploma, that ND higher national diploma, I did it in Kaduna. Okay, before the move, and then the hospital was located in Malavashi, Kaduna, and Zaria before it was put together, you know, and continued here in Zaria as one single entity. So compared to Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital, this hospital was started at one place at a particular time, and the employment continued. Whereas I've been working for since 1996 in Aminu Kano Teaching Hospital. But then I realized that since from that time to date, it's like employment is always going on. Since from that time, I came to that. Because there was a time there was a ban on employment, but they had a cogent reason why government must open up that employment. Why? The activities of philanthropists. The philanthropists came in building wards, centers. At a point in time, Abdul Samad Rabu built a new pediatric ward and equipped it. That time built the dialysis center. He built another orthopedic ward. So many people military officers. Up to now, if I enter, I see new structures. Even right now, I saw a whole new community medicine department being built by the daughter of Gantuje, who is also a community physician. Upstairs, very big, magnificent building. And I saw one person now building a daycare center for the sickle cell patient, the children, because his daughter came and she needed to be, and he was not real admission. So he built in front of my office a new, in fact, one of the offices I'm occupying, and also my classroom, is some of the classrooms are built by a philanthropist. So it's every day, people are competing, the families are competing in Kano. That they want to, because I'm still on study leave, when I went last 2 weeks for this verification, I saw this family of Magaji Ambata build another big one. It was not there 2 years ago because the family built it. So there are more than 20 or 30 structures built by philanthropists. The government had no option than to open up employment. And this we need manpower. They use, the Kano has population, so they can use their massive population to intimidate any person. And they are very political. At a point in time also, during the time of the late CMD, Professor Abdulhamid Issa Duse, he made sure he rallied his friends and met all the political office holders in the National Assembly. This constituency project, you are Kano. Where are you going to use it? Come and use it inside the teacher hospital. So all the constituency projects of those politicians were being built. So that needs to create employment ultimately. All the local governments have a welfare scheme. If there is an indigent patient, go there under this local government, need the social welfare, they will pay your treatment. Almost the chairman within Kano and municipal, they do that. So in Kano, they are highly political, very united. If they want to get something, so they know, I think it's beyond data. We know data for health records is used for planning, for research, for hospital administration, for this and that. But they go extra length to do some other things. I think last few months, I saw the CMD moving from the office of the Accountant General to Honorable Minister of Finance, providing plaque of recognition and hosting a dinner. I knew a few months back they hosted the NCDC DG, is it DG, Mukhtar Aliyu, after he just hosted a dinner for a well done and this and that. I knew all those people also brought a lot of research projects, that they want to do it for their community. So first of all, it has to do with commitment, it has to do with passion, it has to do with service, etc. But I think the capacity, also I too did my research actually in Northwest